Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures, repeat, no pictures live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the issue of politicians, when they have a policy platform, although they rarely have those anymore, but when they do, why can they not implement their policies? Why can some policies sail through at high speed with no resistance, yet others seem to have endless roadblocks and resistance and lawsuits and hysterical media campaigns against it. Now, just looking at I guess a number of politicians, but I saw an interview earlier on where Liz Truss, the former short-term British Prime Minister, was being interviewed on, I think it was trigonometry, and Constantine Kissin, and I think it was Francis Foster, and she was outlining her view of power and its uses and the ability to get things done. So before she became a member of parliament, she thought that being a member of parliament meant you would have certain power. You could you could do things, you could make things happen, you could and when she found that really wasn't the case, she then thought, well, once I'm a minister, I've got some sort of a portfolio to be responsible. Then I'll be able to get things done. And she found as a junior minister, she was being constantly blocked by senior ministers. They're being lobbied by outside parties. Then as a senior minister, she found she didn't really have a whole lot more power or ability to get things done. And there's a difference between power and ability to get things done. The power to say no isn't the same as the ability to actually get things done. They're two different things. Then as albeit briefly, as Prime Minister, she was reminded again, as she explains, I'm paraphrasing here, of course, but as she explains it, she's reminded yet again that the power to get things done, the ability to get things done, even as a Prime Minister, there's a lot of restrictions and constraints. So let's just have a look at those constraints. And again, a number of politicians have said this, not just Liz Truss, but she points out that the NGO sector is now huge. Now, I'm a bit older than Liz, so I remember the days when the NGO sector was much smaller than it is today. I also remember that a job at an NGO were some of the lowest paid jobs in the economy. Today, a job at an NGO is amongst the highest paid jobs in the economy. If you're an engineer building a bridge, the senior engineer, like the deputy engineer in charge of building a major bridge, is paid less than a race, gender, hustler, activist coordinator working in a university today. So I just want to give you that. So they're paid over 200. This is in Australian dollars. They're paid over $200,000 a year for 3 days a week, just to hustle up a placard waving crowd on demand. And they've got their own office and parking lot and everything in the university, international travel, the whole thing. And yet the 2IC engineer of a major civil public works infrastructure project is paid less than the hustler activist who only works 3 days. So that's how things have changed, how much things have changed. So the NGO sector is far more powerful and influential than it ever was. And NGOs can offer all sorts of very well paid, very prestigious do-nothing jobs to people, and that buys a lot of patronage. So the NGO sector. Similarly, public service, the public service salaries, the public service didn't ever pay well. If you wanted money, you went into the private sector. This is certainly when I was younger anyway. Today, again, along with NGO jobs, most of the public sector jobs or Quango jobs pay better than the equivalent job in the public sector. There's all sorts of propaganda around the public servants are paid shit money, but that's bullshit. The very lowest entry level job, sure, but as soon as you start moving up the ranks, the pay is very good, and it's not difficult to sit around a table having a lunch where there's only public servants at the table, and they're all getting paid $500,000 a year of taxpayer money, by the way, with no accountability and a job for life and so on. So the public service and the NGO sector, there's a huge range of government quangos that are kind of taxpayer funded, but they're semi-autonomous, and and this sort of thing. And they've been infiltrated heavily by globalist influences, as you can imagine. And then, of course, the media, which is again owned by the globalist sector. So the media was relatively, this was pre-internet, the media was relatively free back in the day. Not that different newspapers didn't have different views or opinions, they did. All the owners had different, but you had many different views, many different ideas around in the the marketplace of ideas. Today, the globalists all own of it, and it's all own the whole thing, and it's just one voice, one narrative, one view that's pushed. So in reality, an elected prime minister or president or senior hitherto decision-making politician, if they don't have the NGO, Quango, public service, media sector on side, then they've got a real tough time getting policies through. If they do manage even to get a semblance of the policy through, then there's compromises. It has to be watered down, diluted. The things that the people particularly the other side don't like have to be taken out. And so it's not a decision of the prime minister or the president or the parliament or the Congress. It's not their decision anymore. The decision is made really outside the political process. So thus and hence it's undemocratic, because the people that are really making the decisions or have maximum influence on the decisions, they're not elected, and they speak as one voice. So when Joe Biden wants to do LGBTQ policy, it just sails right through because there's no opposition to it. Everybody is on board. The globalists approve it, the media approves it, the Quangos approve it, the public service approves it, the NGO approves it. So it sails through without even a lick of opposition. But if another politician wants to limit or restrict the LGBTQ propaganda, then suddenly all of these forces converge to oppose it, and it's a tough fight. But just looking at it, say you want to do a policy on Liz Truss in the interview, she used an example. She tried to do some like junior school age childcare type programs, and to try and reduce the price of it. But there's a lot of vested interests in this. So the NGOs oppose it, the Quangos oppose it, the public services oppose it. The media is then coordinating with those other groups to oppose it. And then they lobby, other senior politicians and then they can get it kiboshed. So the policy and its merits are irrelevant. There are just people who oppose it, and that's it. Now, to try and illustrate just how this works in sort of the real world, as in on the ground, I'll use some examples of business, which is not too different. I mean, it's not exactly the same, of course, and it's not meant to be a democratic type process. But so I'm like the general manager, VP of a particular company. The company's got some financial problems, and I've got a remit to try and solve some of those financial problems, i.e. they're losing money. And so I'm having a look around things. So I noticed that, and this is how the system works in terms of opposing sensible, reasonable policies that would make everyone's life better, but how there are certain cliques and cabals of vested interests or just corrupt practices, call it what you like, and they will oppose it. And you have to be very determined if you're going to see these things through. Now, there was a thing where this company was selling products, so there was a lot of courier type work, deliveries and so on going on, and private courier companies were used for this. The company didn't have its own fleet of delivery trucks, for example. So I noticed, but by accident one day, that the rate that was being paid for the courier things was well above what you should have paid. So, for example, if it was $10 to take a parcel from A to B in some sort of a competitive situation, this company was paying like $15 per parcel, which was well above the card. And now I just assume that it's something like that. You'd obviously get the most competitive prices or the best service for the competitive price, or something like that. So I assumed that the person in charge was doing that. It's an obvious thing that you would do in that job. You wouldn't pick the most expensive. Now, the service that the courier company was offering wasn't good, or providing wasn't good, so it was hardly that a better service was being provided. But the lady, the woman in charge of it, was taking kickbacks, and that's why there was the higher prices. So she was getting kickbacks, and the kickbacks weren't huge, by the way. It wasn't like she was getting an envelope stuffed full of a gazillion dollars or something. It was fairly low level. They'd be giving her things like coupons to go and eat for free at a nice restaurant, or boxes of chocolates, or it was that sort of stuff she was getting. So it wasn't high-powered corruption, again, with envelopes and money or anything, but nonetheless it was. Now, I wanted to go to a courier company that was a competitive rate and hopefully better service than was getting. She didn't say anything to me. I could see the look on her. I remember it now. I can see the look on her face that she didn't seem pleased with it. But I assumed that was because she was taking it that I was trespassing on her bailiwick or something like that. So she didn't say anything. But she was a friend of the CEO's sister, I think it was. And so she just nodded to me, didn't say anything. But then she lobbied the CEO to say, well, that was her job to decide on the courier company. Why was I bothering her with something so small? Didn't I have bigger fish to fry, and so on? And she was deeply upset, and And so then he comes around and says, well, why do you have to bother Billie Jean with this? I mean, look at all these other things you have to do. Why are you upsetting her? And this and and she says that she's stressed by your harassment. And so, what are you talking about, harassment? I've just asked her to change the courier company to get a competitive rate. There's no harassment. What do you want about harassment? But so this is the thing. So I now, instead of just getting the job done, I now had to fight him, the CEO, which, I mean, you don't want to get into a pushing and shoving match with your boss. And he was prepared to sort of represent her interests. Then his sister used to come in every now and again, I don't know, once a week or so on often. So she pops into my office one day, and just lets me make sure I gently understand. She's very polite, a very wealthy family, and they're very polite and cultured and so on. And she sort of made it as plain as she could, without being vulgar or coarse, that I'd make an enemy of her if I pushed the matter. So this is the sort of thing. So again, now I can win the matter in the end, because I can show that we're paying more money. No, I didn't know she was getting kickbacks, by the way, at this time. I did later, but not then. And so, but I've got to now fight a lot of people to get it done, and I've got many things to do. So I look at that and think, that's just too hard. I'm gonna have to come back to that. There is bigger fish I have to fry. I thought I could get this done easily and without drama, and it obviously needs to be done. And now, given the the hundreds of parcels that were going out sort of every day, you're probably looking at something, I don't know, a few $100,000 over the year that the company is paying too much for. Now, is that few $100,000 the decisive difference between money made, money lost? No, but it's one of the many death by 1,000 cuts type losses this company was experiencing. Now, there was another one where the company was having these big, once every couple of weeks or something, they're having these big, rah-rah sessions at quite an expensive hotel, and their event facility rooms and so on. And again, big bucks were being spent on that, and I couldn't understand why. Why it even needed to be done in the first place, but why there was such extravagance. So I went along to one. It wasn't really that extravagant. So I thought, well, where's this money going? Why is so much money being spent? Well, the people cutting in the company who'd arranged this. The lady, she had arranged for her daughter to get hired as the events manager for this hotel. In return, they were paying well over the card for these, these I think it was every fortnight or something, these events. So whereas the event should have cost $10,000, for example, they were paying $15,000 in order to get her daughter. So when I wanted to cancel the event altogether, and I was querying, why is it so expensive? What are we getting for all this money? The hotel down the road will do it for half the price. That sort of thing. Then this woman panics because she realizes that if I pull the pin on this, which it's my job to do, it's my decision to make. If the or whoever was in that role, it would have been their decision to make. She panics and thinks, well, her daughter's going to lose her job, so she goes to lobby the CEO, and she knows one of the directors on the board of directors, to lobby them to say, well, stop Billy Bob from doing this, and she tries to make up. So that's another area there. Now, again, is that in itself enough to make the company winning? Then there was some other things where there was a group of the guys that always were heading off to a popular vacation holiday destination on a Friday, claiming that they had important customers that they have meetings with. This was all bullshit. They were in cahoots with a travel agent, and the travel agent was taking, skimming it off the top, but organising good deals. So they would book an ordinary hotel, for example, an ordinary hotel room at a nice hotel, and then they would get upgraded to an executive suite overlooking the beach, for example, but without paying any extra. And they would bill the room to the company, and then the travel agent would take a lick and a hit on that. So it was a corrupt little round robin deal, and the hotel would kick back to the traveler, this sort of stuff. And this cozy deal had been going on for quite some time. But these guys were getting regular, at least once a month, I think more than that. We're getting each of them. There were a number of them in on the alert. We're getting there's 4 or 5 of them, I think, on the alert, and they were getting a vacation every. A regular vacation, top of like a 5.5-star, 6-star vacation, all paid for, and everybody was, taking really a benefit of some sort. There was no customer. They weren't seeing a customer. There was nothing there. They were just having a fancy vacation, breakfast included and the lobster included. And so now I sort of uncovered that, and of course they all panicked. The travel agent thing, everybody sort of flew into a panic when they saw me sniffing around at it. So they tried to block that and to engage in all sorts of endless obfuscation and so on. And there are also other things going on there. For example, people were, the accountants were taking kickbacks by delaying payments. So people could claim, customers could claim, 180 days payment terms, because the accountant would just lose the invoice or just wouldn't record it, and then 6 months later their payment would receive, and suddenly the invoice be rediscovered, and they were taking kickbacks for this. There are other things going on, like people jumping the delivery queue, standing in line for delivery. They would come along and bribe somebody or offer a kickback or a benefit of some sort in order to be moved forward in the line, so they would get their delivery early, and so on and so forth. So there was just this endless array of little built-in kickbacks, benefits, corruptions, people having special jobs because of patronage and nepotism, and it was just a morass of this. Now, the fact that it ever got to that stage in the first place was an indictment of the quality of the management, but it behaved, there was almost a public service atmosphere. There was always a relationship that somebody had with somebody that they could use to block whatever it was I was trying to do. And so the amount of energy that you spend every day just to not go backwards is huge. And in the end, I was starting to pick the fights and say, gee whiz, it's not worth me fighting this one. I'm going to save the company, you know, $250,000, but I'm going to have to fight for months, pitched battles internally in order to get this through. You know, it's not worth my time. I mean, really, why would I do it? And I found that just not actually doing any work per se, but fighting all these battles at the end of the day, you know, a 12-hour day, I was absolutely fucking exhausted, just from fighting these battles, because there are so many forces ranged against you to try and stop it. Now, they're trying to stop good practice. They're not trying to, you know, it's not like you're trying to, I don't know, put poison in the coffee or the milk or something. They're trying to stop doing that. It's not that. They're trying to stop good practice. You know, you're trying to stop wastage. You're trying to stop corrupt practices. And this is what they're fighting. They want the corrupt practices. They want the wastage to continue. And there were, you know, there were other things going on that were. Some people were being given, you know, private personal loans interest-free as part of their salary package. So they could go and say they want to buy, I don't know, top-of-the-range Merc or a Beamer or something like that. And instead of getting a loan from a bank or a finance company, the business would actually loan them the $100,000 to buy the car, and they could pay it back zero interest out of salary deductions. So they could not only not pay interest, but they wouldn't pay income tax either, because the salary was being reduced. Therefore, they were, you know, offsetting twice, if you will. So in order to buy, you know, through finance, it would have cost the 100,000 car would have cost them 220,000, but now it was going to cost them 75,000 instead of even the 100, because of the tax deductibility and these sort of things going on. So there was that, and so I wanted to put a stop to that. You know, why should the company be loaning these people money at zero interest rates when the company was going into debt because of it was running at a loss and was paying commercial interest rates? And so I tried to put a stop to that. But again, a fierce pitched battles all around. Even to the point where, you know, guys who, you know, employees, male employees, it was all male employees, I think, had done this one, had taken out loans for the cars. They would, even though, you know, their wives would get on the phone to me and complain, "You can't do this." You know? And so, you know, you get almost excommunicated by the system. And because a lot of these people had so many connections through one way or another with the board of directors, when I turn up for the State of the Union meeting with the directors every month, you know, the first half of it was just me getting beaten up by these guys, because their corrupt, useless, pathetic buddies had all been complaining and whinging and moaning to them. So again, it's a huge expenditure of emotional energy, and you constantly have to walk a greater and greater tightrope, because there are now so many people that want to nobble you and neutralize you and take you out and you know, deliver the kill shot to you, just to get rid of you, so you're out of the way and you're not threatening their corrupt practices anymore. So there's that as well. You know, that takes a lot of emotional energy. So I'm not surprised, you know, and my experience is obviously not at the apex of government. It's just at a business of a few hundred people. But the point being, the obstruction, the architecture and methodology of obstruction and delay and so on. Yeah, at other times I'd ask people to do things. So, okay, well, all right, you know, can you do this and this and so on? And then come back to all these reasons why it can't be done and how, and they, oh, well, it can be done, but we need to study this and consider that, and we need to, now, sure, okay, but why does it need to be 12 months to do that? I mean, can't you do that in a few weeks? Well, we can't, and we have to subcontract this, and they have to take their time. And so the idea of getting things done, and I didn't cotton onto this immediately, but the slow walking process, that if we just delay it and slow walk it to such an extent, other priorities will come up which will distract him. And then he'll lose interest in this, or won't have the time for it, or he'll just forget about it. And as long as we sort of just say that we're doing it, but we just keep it just that little bit out of reach, then sooner or later he'll just lose interest and think it's all too hard. He'll go off and do something else, or that was their thinking. They seemed rather surprised when I'd stay with it. No. I'd open my diary and say, no, look, we had this conversation 6 weeks ago, and you're saying exactly the same thing. I want to know why you haven't progressed it since then. And I'd have those sort of conversations with them, which seemed to fluster them a little bit, because I was sure that I'd forget about it. But when you're in government, where you've got infinitely more forces ranged against you, such as hostile media articles that they can get out on you on demand, and so on. And in the bigger organizations, if they want to get rid of you, they've got no problem at all in finding some little waif of a girl with a torn blouse that says he tried to rape me. They can do all of that sort of stuff, and do all sorts of setups and honey traps and so on, to neutralize someone that's getting in the way, or could potentially be a threat, or wants to put through. There was I remember there was a guy who'd uncovered some sort of insurance fraud and scam that he thought, he'd discovered this. And I don't think he'd actually discovered all. I think he was getting close. I think he was just a bit too close for their liking. And they decided he was now too dangerous and he had to go. And the effort that they went to, honey traps after honey traps, trying to get him to do something inappropriate, say something inappropriate, this sort of stuff, just trying to get him so they could use that. Look there, he's a rapist, or he's a, and then get rid of him. And so that was all because they thought he was just getting a bit too close to the corrupt practices they are up to. So this is how it is. This is the reality. And as long as we've got a globalist controlled media and a globalist controlled NGO sector, which is no accident, by the way, these are pieces they put in place to facilitate the globalist program. As long as we've got that there, then, as well as the low IQ sociology graduates, all over the public service, as long as we've got that in the West, all across the West, which it is, then it's going to be very, very difficult to put through any policy that the globalists don't want, because the globalists control so much of the influencing machinery that it's a tough gig. It can be done, but only the most determined and tactically savvy Western governments could do it. And none of those exist at the moment. Hopefully they will very soon. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.